Good morning, friends. Today we are going to start a new course on linguistics. It is known as corpus linguistics. In this particular module, we have got 30 different parts. So I'll proceed one by one. Today I'll start with the first module. It is about the definition of corpus. Gradually, we'll move with different parts or different modules, finally to find out how this language corpus, which is a new resource for language description, has come into play and how it contributes to the other discipline of linguistics, how it is useful for the entire population from where the language data is collected, analyzed, utilized for the benefit of the people. So today, this is the first module. It is about definition of corpus. Since this particular discipline or area of linguistic research is a recent innovation, it is not has a very long history. So we need to go in a step-by-step process, trying to understand how the entire thing works, what is a corpus, how it is made, what are its basic components, what are its basic features, how it can be processed, how information can be extracted from it, and how information can be utilized in several ways. So this module has 6 major parts. The first part is the introductory part. I'll give a very short description about it. Then we will try to understand how scholars in different parts have tried to identify corpus and define it. We'll have also our own inference about the definition of corpus. We'll also define how the term, the acronym is retrieved, how it is defined, is understood. Then, in part 4, we'll consider the formation analysis or formation principles, or the basic theoretical philosophical principles that are applied for the formation of corpus. We'll also identify the benefits. What are the benefits or advantages we usually get from a corpus, and how people are going to utilize it, the real practical advantages of it. Finally, in conclusion, we'll explore, we'll see how this can go further. Okay, fine. Now let us start with the introductory part. As you know that corpus has recently been evolved as a discipline, as a part of to be accurate, in the middle of the last century, it started. We noted that perhaps in 1951, to be more accurate, people realized that we need to refer to the actual empirical use of the language if at all we want to understand how language is being used by people in their regular discourse, in their regular linguistic communication. So this is a new approach altogether. We call it an empirical approach. So this is occupying a very important place because for the first time we're trying to know how language is being used. So here we can notice that there is a shift from our traditional frame of linguistic research, a new frame where we are more interested to have actual usage-based evidence of language to understand it in all its totality, rather than depending on simple theorizations or sporadic extractions of language data or in examples to substantiate our observations or our hypothesis. So why this is happening so? Why it was understood that we need to refer to the language data, not by all, but by a major chunk of linguists in America and UK and other parts of the globe were interested to know the empirical evidence. Three important things were actually observed there. The first thing is that the limitations of the traditional linguistics, linguistic theories more precisely. What is that? But these traditional linguistic theories and observations and principles, what we have got so far, failed to show or identify the features of actual language in use. I repeat, the traditional theories, traditional principles, models were not actually showing how language is being used. So actual use of language and theories and models and principles of language are not matching properly together. So we needed that we should have a new approach. Second important part here is that introduction of language corpora. We found that the new introduction now provided very useful, authentic evidence about the language use, which could challenge our earlier observations of language. So this corpus is actually giving the real evidence of real life language use, and that is becoming remarkable to us because we now get a new insight to look into the language. Third important part, very important, crucial in here, because it is not only the language reference part or description part. Information, data, linguistic examples are actually extracted from corpora and utilized in many other disciplines of linguistics. Say various linguistic activities, say language description, processing, analysis, application, teaching, and many other reasons. So these three important issues become very crucial for the growth and expansions of corpus linguistics in years to come. In later years, you'll see that what was started at an experimental basis in 1961 by a team of scholars there in USA, Brown University, as well as a team of scholars from UK, expanded like anything. Now, if you come here in the new millennium, you can find that a large number of scholars across the world are directly referring to language corpora for all kinds of linguistic research and applications. Thus, the whole process is expanding, growing up, and recently, very recently, it has been noted that language corpora has a tremendous relevance, functional relevance, in many other domains, not only in linguistics, in its sister disciplines also. Thus, we are proceeding from initial small enterprise to a huge academic exercise in years to come. So, let us also find out how language corpora helped us. First thing, language corpora enabled us to observe the natural language in the light of its actual use in normal regular life. This gave us a very beautiful opportunity, a very good opportunity. We get a good chance now to get use data in large amount and to understand how people actually use language, how they construct sentences while they speak, how they construct sentences while they write, what kind of lexical choice they make, is there any particular preference for lexical choice, what kind of manipulations they do, linguistic manipulations or changes of linguistic rules while they construct form sentences, words, and what are the innovative ways they actually deploy to use language in different ways. Also, corpora provided ample evidences to analyze language with a degree of authenticity, which was lacking in early language studies. I would like to emphasize on the term of authenticity. So in earlier years, when it happened like that, we want some authenticity in the language data. That feature was mostly missing. We couldn't find out anything if that data is authentic, if it is open for verification, if it is open for validation, also if it is open for confirmation. But for the first time, here, the language corpora has given us this opportunity. You can also verify. It is not that I am saying something and you have to believe what I say because I am using the language data. In a reverse way, I can also give you the entire data to you. So you can use the data also to verify what I have said, what I have observed, what I have stated is also authentic, true, or valid. Corpora helped us to reach to a conclusive position on any aspect of a particular language through inductive inference, by which the final judgment was made on the observations of numerous individual examples. Here, the important point is that the inductive process. So we want to make an inductive deduction or inductive conclusion based on the evidences. So this is a place where corpora has played an important part. And due to these many factors, many people are interested to use corpora in all their studies. We depend on the citations, on the examples, on the information available in corpus, analyze them, arrange them in different orders, manipulate them for our research activities, development activities, teaching activities, development of resources. On the contrary, we are also interested to extract large amount of linguistic data of real life language use that can be used for any other purposes. Thus, corpus has become a very important resource in linguistic research and development activities. One thing should be very clearly mentioned here. Corpus linguistics is not a new theory or new domain of linguistics. It is, in fact, a new approach toward linguistic studies. That means we are not going to introduce a new branch of linguistics, like say sociolinguistics or psycholinguistics or anthropological linguistics, or now recent trend like ecolinguistics or something like that. What we are doing here, we are using language data, using computer technology to analyze data, extracting new evidences, examples, manipulating huge load of data, and giving a very solid empirical approach towards all the disciplines of linguistics. So here lies the importance of corpus linguistics, that it contributes, it supplements the knowledge base, the data, the information. So we call it a new approach, new strategy, new method of linguistic research and studies. After that, let us come to identify what we call a corpus. What is a corpus? This is a crucial question. In a simple term, any small collection of data, language data, can be treated as a corpus. But whenever we are talking about the term corpus in the broad spectrum of corpus linguistics and language technology and language application, we need to have more precise, more to the pointed, and more accurate definition of corpus so that a student, a learner can have a clear visualization, realizations of the concept. Corpus is a statistically sampled language database for the purpose of investigation, description, application, and analysis relevant to all branches of linguistics. So this is a very common term, mostly used. Due to its wide structure, varied composition, and huge information load, and confirmed referential authenticity, wide text representation, easy accessibility, and accurate verifiability, it has become almost indispensable in all branches of linguistics. In the area of linguistics, scholars can easily refer to a corpus to verify if earlier propositions and examples are actually real. Pre-proposed definitions and explanations are logical, and if intuitive evidences and arguments are valid with respect to the proofs of actual language use. If we go back to the etymology of the term, you can have a new insight in the term. Etymologically, the term corpus is derived from the Latin word corpus, and it means a body of collection, or a body of collection, or a huge amount of data. Now, this term has come down to English in two different ways. One is corpse, which came via Old French corps, and another is corpse, which came via modern French corps in the 18th century. These terms, the former term first entered in English in the 13th century as cors, C-O-R-S, and during the 14th century it had its original Latin P reinserted. At first it meant simply a body, but by the end of the 14th century, the sense dead body, it became firmly established. However, on the other hand, the original Latin term corpus itself was acquired in English in the 14th century. You can get some idea about the definition of corpus, which is available in a dictionary published by Bloomsbury Press by John Ayather in 1919. Although the term is randomly applied in various non-linguistic collections of data and samples in other branches of human language, in linguistics and linguistic-related disciplines such as philosophy, psychology, lexicography, it occupies an esteemed status with the orientation towards the large collections of language. In corpus linguistics, corpus holds a special connotative usage sense. I can refer to the experts and masters of the discipline, how they refer to it. According to David Crystal, it refers to a large collection of linguistic data, either written texts or a transcription of recorded speech, which can be used as a starting point of linguistic description or as a means of verifying hypotheses about a language. In a different way, it refers to a body of language text, both in written and spoken forms. It represents varieties of language used in each and every field of human linguistic interactions. So, Crystal's argument is quite sensible in the sense that it covers almost all the properties or features defined for the corpus. The most important thing is that the entire database has to be preserved in listen-readable form so that it enables us for all kinds of linguistic descriptions and analysis. This definition was given by Crystal in 1997. In 1988, Graham Kennedy does not exactly agree with these definitions, since, according to him, such one-dimensional definition may fail to represent the contrasting varieties involved in the process of corpus generation. Therefore, in the present context of linguistics, corpus should be used in the sense of a large collection of texts assumed to be representative of a given language, dialect, or other subject varieties to be used for linguistic analysis. Although the definition stated above tried to encompass the sociolinguistic components included within a language, it, to our mind, fails to divert our attention to the linguistic criteria considered necessary for designing a corpus. This need is addressed in the definition, where it is argued that corpus is a collection of pieces of language texts that are selected and ordered according to some explicit linguistic criteria in order to be used as a sample of a language. This argued by Sinclair. Because the question of sampling techniques used for generating a corpus, Sinclair prefers to use the non-committal word pieces or not texts, because we don't get the full texts altogether into the corpus. Rather, we get some pieces of text, some starting point to end point, a small chunk of text as a representative sample to be put into the corpus. So, to a certain extent, Sinclair is right when he claims that corpus actually don't take the entire texts, but are some big pieces of corpus, a text to be put into the corpus. Its samples are of same size. They are not text. Most of them will be fragments of text, arbitrarily detached from their content sources. We generally emphasize the text should be of equal size. Sometimes also, in a different sense, words such as collection and archive are also used to refer to the sets of language texts. However, they differ from corpus in the sense that they do not need to be selected or ordered. Moreover, selection and ordering of input text do not need to be on the same line as proposed for designing a language corpus. There are, therefore, quite unlikely language corpus. So we cannot take collections and archives or recordings as corpus only. The term text is also referred to in relation to corpus as it contains a collection of language data. It simply points to the extracts used in spoken and written communications. So, corpus usually refers to a large collection of naturally occurring language texts presented in listen-readable form, accumulated in a scientific manner to characterize a particular variety or use of language. It is methodically designed to contain many millions of words compiled from different texts across various linguistic domains to encompass the diversity of language used usually to exhibit the multifaceted usage of language. It may refer to any text in written or spoken form. A corpus which contains constituent pieces of language that are documented to their origin and provenance are encoded in standard and homogeneous way by open-ended retrieval tasks also. So many scholars argue that corpus should be in a machine-readable form and a format where it is easily retrievable. So that based on those criteria, I have defined corpus in the same as listed above or listed here. So most of these definitions, however, fail to elaborate the inherent texture of the concept in details. If this is so, then we need to look at this in a new perspective. We need to expand the concept, try to understand from different angles. Scholars like McHenry and Wilson prefer to classify corpus by finding a scheme of classification characterized by inherent features of a corpus. They are mostly interested not to put the term in a one-dimensional way. Rather, they find corpus to be polysemous in sense because it may have different connotations in different texts and different situations. According to them, loosely, it can refer to any body of text of a language or a variety that is under study. But if we take into consideration of the modern concept, the feature of like a huge body of text in machine-readable form should be the important part. That means corpus should be in a machine-readable format. More strict sense, what we use today, it refers to a finite collection of machine-readable texts which is sampled to be maximally representative of a language or a language variety. So this is a frame which proposed by McHenry and Stein. According to Susan Hanston, it's slightly different. The corpus here we can understand from applicational point of view. Hanston says that linguistics have always used the word corpus to describe a collection of mutually occurring examples of language consisting of anything from a few sentences to a set of written texts or tape recordings which have been collected for linguistic study. More recently, the word has been reserved for a collection of text or part of text that is stored and accessed electronically. Because computers can hold and process large amount of information, electronic corpora are usually larger than the small paper-based collections previously used to study the aspects of language. Two important issues are actually coming out from this definition. First important is composition of a corpus and usage potential of a corpus. So how it is composed and how it is going to be utilized. In common sense, it is not a big deal to collect samples of text of language. We can do that. But mere collections of text samples does not stand for a corpus unless it is marked with some specific properties. A corpus needs data from each and every domain of language use without any prejudice or restriction. Theoretically, it has to be infinite in form and content. At the same time, it has to reflect faithfully on the varieties normally observed in regular use of a language. In essence, it has to be a reliable replica in which all types of language use are faithfully manifested. So taking those features into account, we tried to formulate an acronym. Let us now look into the acronym of corpus. So it is already known to us that corpus contains a large collection of representative samples obtained from the texts covering wide varieties of language use in numerous domains of natural linguistic interactions. Therefore, in principle, a corpus is capable of representing potentially unlimited selections of texts. Taking all these features into careful consideration, we may explain the term corpus from the features it denotes in the following manner. What it shows: C stands for compatibility to computer, compatibility of texts to computer. O stands for operational in research and application. R stands for representative of the source language. P, processable by both man and machine. U, unlimited in amount of language data and text varieties. And finally, S stands for it is systematic, information and text representation. So this acronym speaks about what a corpus can be. When you try to develop and design a general corpus, we need to keep in mind that it is to be designed for faithful study of linguistic properties present in a language. So the properties mentioned, conditions mentioned above are very much necessary while developing a corpus. So when we talk about the formation of corpus, we need to refer to the formational issues of corpus. What are the formational principles are there? So here, so far we have tried to understand those things. Now we would emphasize on the formational principles. There are certain principles which are formed. A corpus, when it is systematically compiled, although small in size, should invariably follow the following principles. It is a very solid theoretical or philosophical base. It should faithfully represent both common as well as special linguistic features of a language from where it is designed and developed. Second, it should be moderately large in size so that it encompasses representative samples of texts in various disciplines. That means directional varieties of languages noted in various disciplines and domains of languages should have equal representation in it. If not equal, adequate representation in it. Third, it should be a true replica of the physical texts that are normally found in printed and spoken form of a language. Fourth, it should faithfully preserve, in case of a written text corpus, different characters, words, and other graphic symbols used in texts. Also, it should preserve spelling variations, usage variations, and other textual variations used in the source text. Otherwise, the actual form and status of the language will be lost. It should represent all kinds of linguistic usage variations in a proportional manner to give a general impression about the state of the language under investigation. 6. Text samples used in corpus should be maximally authentic, largely referential for future verification and validation. It should be made in such a manner that it is available in method-readable form for quick access and ready reference, not only by experts but also common users. It should enable language users to use language data in all various works, starting from simple linguistic description to language analysis, statistical counts of data, language teaching, language processing, language translation, and many other related tasks. Text samples should be preserved in corpus, either in annotated form, we are going to discuss annotation in other modules, or in non-annotated form, or both. If the text samples are stored in annotated version, then there should be a mechanism that can convert the annotated version of the text into non-annotated version very easily, so that any common user can retrieve data or refer to the raw texts if required. The linguistic and extra-linguistic of the texts should be preserved in a reliable and a systematic way in the form of a metadata tagged into the corpus along with the texts in the computer, so that it is accessible for future reference and usage. So we'll come across the issues of extra textual information or extra linguistic information, how it is encoded in later modules. Theoretically, the size of corpus refers to the sum total of its components, such as characters, words, phrases, sentences, etc. Moreover, to make a balance in corpus texts from the field of natural science should carry equal weightage like that of literature, mass media, engineering, medical science, and social science, and many others. We are going to highlight the benefits of corpus. A well-planned and highly balanced representative corpus is an empirical standard which acts as a benchmark for validation of usage of linguistic properties available in a language. If we analyze such a corpus, we get information of the following types about a language. What are those? It provides detailed information about all phonetics, phono-elements, properties, elements, and components used in a language, such as sounds, characters, punctuation, phonemes, morphemes, words, bases, lemmas, compounds, reduplications, multi-word units, idioms, proverbs, set phrases, sentences, and others. It also supplies grammatical and functional information such as forms, compositions, pattern of using affixes and inflections, patterns of constituent structure, context of use, usage patterns, meanings, sense variations of words, phrases, sentences, idiomatic expressions, etc., which are available in the language. Third, it provides usage-based information, regular or specific, stylistic, metaphorical, allegorical, idiomatic, figurative, proverbial, and various other types of uses of segments, morphemes, words, compound sentences in a language. It supplies textual and contextual cues of a text by way of providing information relating to time, place, and agent of a language event. It supplies information of the extralinguistic world relating to linguistic discourse also. Close investigation of corpus reveals life and living and social and cultural fabric of the language community, along with the reflections on the world knowledge at large. The information of extralinguistic world obtained from a corpus is analyzed simultaneously with interlinguistic information collected from linguistic elements and language use to understand how a piece of text is composed and developed, how text is used, in which context it is used, and how does it serve the purpose of text users. So modern corpus linguistics is a new thing. This is the first module of this course. So I would like to end here. In the next module, I'll identify the features of corpus in more details and other aspects related to it. Thank you.